Welcome back, everyone. We were waiting for HeroMarine to close out his game versus a laser on the main stage, and he did. He 2-1 yet another Zerg. So HeroMarine actually being in quite a prime position in this round robin. Now he faces a Protoss, and this, well, there's a lot to talk about with this matchup. Let's do the intros first. In the bottom left is the red Protoss. He is Rail. Kind of on the opposite end of the round robin results so far. There's that right. As the blue Terran, it is HeroMarine. Currently, as we quickly refresh Wikipedia, Raynor is in the lead, having taken all of his series so far. Now he faces Lambo, I believe. And Rail is on the opposite end of that, where he is currently 0-3. HeroMarine at a 2-1 with one of the worst map scores, actually. So it's, you know, if HeroMarine wins this one, then he's pretty good. But if he loses it, he's still in a little bit of a danger zone. If he were to really bomb out tomorrow, that is. But that's the thing, is that there's 4 EU matches today, 3 tomorrow, and then, you know, the opposite for America would just start right after this. And, you know, maybe that's a good thing. Maybe you weren't having the best day today and you can actually bring it back tomorrow, and maybe it's a bad thing because you were having a great day. Like, you know, whatever. But point is, if he is able to take it through to Rail and actually get a 2-0, for instance, or at least 2-1, he would be at least pretty much safe, I think, to get out of the group. You have to get bottom 2 to be out of winter entirely, so that still leaves 6 other spots. That's still a pretty good chance. But it's this matchup, and that's, you know, yeah. Say whatever you want as far as what your opinions on the balance is. Like, yeah, it's balanced, but, you know, you want to talk about design, go ahead. What we really should talk about, though, is what the actual players might believe. Now, HeroMarine is pretty much publicly known for his stream and what he says on his stream, and maybe he's playing a little bit more of a part, not just because he, you know, maybe not intentionally, but it's because you are streaming, you're under a lot of pressure, you're getting kind of the worst moments of a person as they lose game after game after game. But I really do believe that he doesn't like the matchup right now. That doesn't mean he's not good at it, but when he was making his way through the round of 16 for WCS EU, he did almost lose out to a Protoss and was able to bring it back in a group curse situation type thing. But he was not too happy about it. I think he had more things to say about it than he would if he had lost to another Terran, for instance, right? So keep that in mind. The perception, one's perception of the matchup is very strong sometimes, even if their actual skill is still rather comparative. And, well, on Rail's side of things, I'm actually not too certain about Rail's ideas about this, but thanks to Fear Dragon, I can go ahead and check. At least he has some insight. No idea what will happen here. It's hard to prep against Terran because not many in Europe. That makes sense. HeroMarine is doing some maybe wackier builds than you would expect. The Korean Terrans, for instance, bringing back some of the Widowmine drops, or going for some Hellion openers. There's things you can do, certainly, but kind of the argument is like, how effective are they really, and how much can the Protoss really shut it down? We are on Automaton, where HeroMarine might be anticipating not a Stargate play, but rather a Twilight Council play, so you can get Blink and you can go ahead and Blink up here. Unfortunately, it is Stargate. Now, I said he might be predicting that, but he does get the confirmation on not just like seeing all those Adepts, but also literally seeing the Phoenix. That's pretty damn good. He was already not really sacrificing his attack. He was just sacrificing the medevac, but let's be real, the medevac is the reason why Widowmine drops work. Some of them across the map isn't nearly as effective. So, just looking for the scout, just trying to figure out exactly what Rail was doing, and then going for more of the defensive setup with the Widowmines. He does want to keep these alive and stop any further scouting from Rail, any further pressure from him. I will really drive this home that Stargate openers are kind of the least expected when you have Twilight being pretty darn good. But it's, you know, it still exists, obviously, but, you know, we're not even talking about Oracles. We're actually, this is Phoenix-based play, so a little bit off, I guess, to the other PvTs that we've been seeing. But to Rail's point about not being able to prep against Terran, that's absolutely true. And it might put him in a difficult spot. It might put him in a, you know... Well, that was a really good shot. Damn. He might be kind of hesitant in this matchup. Maybe hoping that the Phoenix will give him some confidence, the map control, that type of thing, but so far not doing so hot. HeroMarine doing a really good job splitting up his Widow Mines and his Marines so that he's not just getting great shots of the Widow Mines, but also kind of protecting them. A little late to protecting that one, though. Combat shield, stim, +1, everything's on the way for Rail. It might have started off with Phoenix, but he is quickly going into a robotic space, so skipping that Twilight Council entirely for quite some time, wanting to get those Colossus, which definitely made their way back into this matchup. And with the Phoenix, you do need to keep a certain number of them because that is going to be your anti-air both against drops as well as against straight-up attacks. You want to be able to take out those medevacs. You want to be able to have something to take out the Vikings or at least soak up the shots for Vikings, right? Which should eventually come into play once HeroMarine realizes what's up. With the Phoenix being up to 5 and also maybe seeing that they're continuing to stay at 5, he's adding more. He might kind of just figure things out. You don't usually go into a lot of Phoenix or into like a Adept, for instance. That was a very, very old style of playing. And as I said, Colossus kind of made their way back in here. So I believe HeroMarine would figure this out if he's, you know, definitely thinking about the game. And he's kind of a cerebral player, so I'm guessing. But we'll see for sure if he ever swaps off that factory, for instance, for another starport, or just straight up starts producing Vikings after 4 medevacs. A bit of a passive game. HeroMarine couldn't do anything to slow down Rail, and Rail maybe could have done something with his Phoenix, was successfully denied by doing so by HeroMarine. That was really, really nice by him. He has an attack ready, but by the time he gets across the map, the Phoenix are in position to stop any drops in the main, and then maybe if he drew this army out into a concave, he could take it on. It's not a very strong army right now, but that's where the chokes to come in, force wolves to come down, and more warpings to come in down as well. Now, we are on 3 bases for HeroMarine, so let's go ahead and let that over now. We're getting a Ghost Academy. I'm always like hesitant to believe this is the right, like the best thing to do, but this is not uncommon to see, so I guess it is just like the better thing to do. So he's getting everything you'd ever want against a Protoss, right? And that's not necessarily bad, it's just that ghosts are a little expensive. Quadruple Vikings is already pretty damn expensive, and then adding ghosts on top of that, even if it's only 3, and that's usually what we see, is just they add 3 and then they're like, I'm done. It's, you know, it's one thing if you've gotten a 3rd base up on time and you're fine and your macro's good, and HeroMarine certainly is, but if it's, you know, you've got any Stalkers harassing you or Phoenix doing a bunch of damage, like it's very tough to afford, and the EMPs sometimes don't look as good as they should, basically. The ghosts sometimes look like a wasted investment. Rail is, there we go. He has so much army everywhere, but he is coming together. He is ready for an attack. Scan, because a Marine had seen the army incoming, and he sees the entire army incoming, so he has to get prepared here, but he's not quite ready to go. He get up to a decent number of medevacs, then started his Viking production. He's still waiting on those ghosts. Rail doesn't have any Twilight tech here, so the Stalkers can't blink forward to help out. The charge lots, not charge lots. They're just regular zealots. They're missing damage. They're missing that ability to connect to HeroMarine's army, so I believe HeroMarine is totally, absolutely correct in calling this. Give up that 3rd CC temporarily. At least Rail will be a little down on the important upgrades in a macro game, so if you can hold this, maybe you'll win in the late game. But it's going to be really tough. Even taking out the sentries here with the EMP is only going to be adding so much. Phoenix, not so much about lifting units as much as they are about taking out those Vikings anyway, so EMPs don't really work against them either. The EMPs do blanket the ground army, but 2 Colossus still going pretty damn strong. The Vikings are actually taking on the Phoenix, or maybe they should have been focus firing down the Colossus. And then, of course, the actual force fields that came down, the choke that HeroMarine kind of put himself in. I think it's just a little bit too good for the Protoss, but no upgrades to the Protoss. I meant that for Blink Charge, as well as no Forge upgrades. Those are starting to really shine through in these very low unit situations. The Marauder's still barely alive here. The Phoenix have been taken out, and this actually might be HeroMarine's hold. Now, he lost 40 SCVs doing so, but he still holds. HeroMarine, hot damn. That was scary. If he had any less of a concave, if there was another upgrade, Rail had +1 attack, I don't know, like that could have been so different. And his EMPs, they were actually pretty good. They literally blanketed the Zealot Stalker army. I don't think they really reached the Colossus, but still, like there was a drastic difference in the amount of health that army actually had. So that was damn close. Damn close. Whew. I'm sweating. I got the Terran empathy sweats. Next up's gonna be Kairos. Ghost gotta be there, Cultivator's too powerful versus Protoss. I don't think I agree. I think they're good. I don't think they're too powerful versus Protoss. Alright, game number 2. In the top left is the blue Protoss. It is Rail. In the bottom right, as the red Terran, it is HeroMarine, barely holding on. If he had taken the fight around his third base, he probably doesn't have enough units and then dies. Maybe he has less of a concave, he doesn't lift his third CC, but lifting his third CC, giving that up entirely, and then actually, I believe he lifted his natural so we could get more of a concave. Both really important stuff there. The fact that his macro was so damn good, he had one already done, he had his Ghosts and Vikings barely in time, and he had a decent number of Vikings, even though they weren't targeting the Colossus. Which I do wonder what that would have looked like if he had done that. Point-wise, they're still adding a lot of damage. It was a very, very, very close fight. One of those, if HeroMarine had been supply blocked for 10 extra seconds, maybe he doesn't have enough type thing. Because with the War Prism still being alive, it does snowball very quickly for the Protoss, with Baron's advantage. You know, it could snowball very quickly for the Terran, and that's ultimately why we're all tapped out. But well, losing 40 SCVs, HeroMarine was 3 CC, 26 SCVs I think was left over. I didn't actually quite keep count because Rail tapped out anyways, but I wonder if there was a macro game beyond that. You know, he would have had to deal with drops without Phoenix, and that would have been harrowing, but I wonder if he could have played a macro game out of that. I don't know. I see a lot of people asking, like, was that too premature of a GG? You know, it's really hard to say. I think for Rail, he probably doesn't realize he killed literally 40 SCVs. Maybe he thought he killed 25 or 30, which can be a very drastic difference when you include the mules that are still alive on top of that. And then even with our knowledge, it's still like, okay, drops would really start to dominate. He'd have to replenish the army that, remember, doesn't have any Twilight Council upgrades. So whereas if you have Twilight Council upgrades and 1-1, Zealot Stalker is very, very effective. And, well, that type of scenario anyways. It wouldn't be. It'd be slow Zealots running to their death and Stalkers running back and forth because his Phoenix count isn't high enough, you know? So I think ultimately Rail does lose in that game, but maybe there was that, like, 15% chance. Or maybe I'm wrong. Maybe Rail actually could have done it, but I think he was ready to tap out. And for him, he very much so is doing an all-in, right? He's like, I'm gonna all-in, hopefully this works, and then it doesn't work, you're certainly more likely to just tap out because in your mind it was supposed to win the game. Yeah, I agree with it. I agree with the tap out, and I'm sure Rail really cares what I think. Bunker is delayed a little bit, but ultimately the Adepts are held. And the bunker will hold any further attacks. We are on a map that doesn't have a ramp in the natural, so if it doesn't have a ramp in the natural, it's pretty safe to go for the bunker. But, you know, he didn't do that last game. And it was the same situation, so different builds. It's going into a 2-1-1 here, so he's not having the Widow Mines or the Medevac drop, but rather just adding on a Cyclone pretty quickly. But it's still a slow building unit, so if there was some severe pressure, maybe without that in the bunker, you'd lose SCVs, or at the very least, lose mining on the natural, so very, very safe. Rail going for the little bit of a wall off here, maybe fearing some of HeroMarine's Hellion openers. But maybe also, well, it doesn't really help against the Reaper that much, because the Reaper hop-up spot's up here. So I'm thinking he just was aware of HeroMarine's builds. He has quite a few. Reaper is taken out. It did get into the main base to see everything. It saw 2 gateways and a robo, which, you know, an actor game. Probably going to Colossus, which is what's thrown down right now. Forge and a robotics bay. Gases as well. HeroMarine's going to be able to build up alongside Rail, and then he's also going to be able to actually get some attacks in, because Rail will be kind of defensive. 2 base all-ins do exist with Colossus. I mean, there used to be a very popular one back in King's Liberty. Maybe it was Heart of the Swarm. I don't know. They blur together at this point. But not really done anymore. So HeroMarine looks like he was already on a tech lab on a starport, but especially after confirming the robo first and then seeing Colossus last game, if he was able to make the decision to go for a Raven, that's great. If he was already going for a Raven, that's coincidentally very great. We all know that Ravens are very effective against those Colossus because you're depending on one big flashy unit. If it's taken out of commission, then suddenly you're actually sometimes dead. It's that important. And you just take it out of commission entirely for like 10 seconds. Pretty good thing to do. Rail's going for a 3rd Nexus, which he will technically get away with. This can be a struggle to defend if you're going against someone who's trying to drop you, because you don't have Blink, you don't have Phoenix, and if you try to reach towards a 3rd, you're, you know, to go from here over here, for instance, would be quite difficult to do. But he's not facing someone who's doing a lot of drops. He is facing more of a direct attack type of build-up, it looks like, because that Raven is included. Now, we are going to have Medevacs, and maybe HeroMarine adds a drop in, but Rail has seen the build order. As far as the timing of the starport kind of goes, saw the barracks lift and the factory come down, so I guess he doesn't technically know it, but maybe he can kind of guess it. So that is the bummer right now, is that he doesn't realize that when the starport exactly was made, or what it had on it. You know, if it was a reactor already on it, he was aware of Medevacs, he needs to be afraid of that. If it was a tech lab, well then it's a Raven, and he hasn't quite seen it yet. So this observer would maybe want to go a little farther forward just to even see that it is a Raven. Right, it would die, of course, because Ravens are detectors, but he's going to see the attack about midway here. He's going to have Stalkers without Blink that are going to try and catch something, and they're going to look kind of lame here. This is hitting with combat shields. He's got +1 attack, and then he'll be even on upgrades, but now Rail is down 3 Stalkers, or at least 2 on this one. Maybe not even going to be able to join back in. What do you do? Waste a recall on this? No, probably not. So down 3 Stalkers with a very small army. The Raven's going to be absolutely huge here. Force fields are going to have to be placed down to buy some time. Ideally, I think for Rail, he triggers the interference matrix and then force fields so that it disappears, right? So he's kind of going aggressive here. And I think that is the best call. Because again, if he had been interference matrix, he maybe just backs off and waits for it to go down. But if he has to back away from his Nexus, well, that's when the Nexus goes down. Oh, nice catch here. Colossus in the middle. I guess it was maybe hotkeyed into the army, so instead of going towards the 3rd, it went through here. Maybe that would have saved its life. Maybe it's still dead no matter what, because HeroMarine actually dropped in a natural, kind of unexpectedly, not into the main base. He takes care of all these gateway units as well, and Rail is simply going to tap out. Doesn't even try to go for the attack. Interesting. I feel like he should have done the attack, but I think there's a bit of a, you know,